Okay, it's about 9 a.m. on the 8th of July. We're getting into monsoon season. We had, not last night, but the night before, I think we had about 2 inches of rain. I had rain, it filled up both sets of cans, so I had like 5 trash cans full of water. So then the next day I spent some time transferring that water. I pumped it through a filter and then put it back in my main tank, so I got to use it. That was laundry water. That was good. Haven't showed the potatoes lately. Oh, while I'm thinking of it, I finally got rid of this last pile of wood. This is a big deal. It's like every time the wind blows, I think about all this tarps that used to be out here, and I'm just waiting for something else to fly away. So yesterday, my task was just to get rid of that. So this was 4 leftover sheets of subfloor, which is really heavy OSB, that I didn't really have any other use for, plus a whole bunch of scraps of subfloor. So I cut it up to size to use for countertops and workbench surfaces. So it'll be really well suited to that. So now this area is clear, and I was very careful when I was picking it up to make sure there was no rattlesnakes, because the first snake of the year was found under a pile of wood like that. But nothing more than a couple worms, so that was good. It rained so much that I didn't have to water the potatoes last night. They're still wet from 2 days ago. That's great. This ground cover, whatever it is, little green, it's growing like crazy just because of when I water the potatoes. That's kind of cool. The rabbits love this stuff. They'll come in and eat it. I have seen the rabbits eating the potato greens a little bit, but they seem to be careful not to overdo it. You know, you'll see them take a bite here and there, but not too bad. So I guess they know if they don't kill it, it'll keep growing. That seems interesting. I've been kind of watching this corner. That's where I am pretty sure that turtle from a while ago was laying eggs, and I haven't seen any holes coming out of there. So I don't know how long turtles take to, what's the word, incubate? Anyway, so that's the potatoes. This is some of the water that came off of the rain gutters. So whatever I couldn't fit in the main tank got put back out here. Oh, this is kind of cool. I've seen a few of these. Let's see if we can get this. See the little red guy in the middle there. It's almost a spider or a bug, but it is like red velvet. It's crazy. Every now and then I'll see one. Anyway, I mean, that's the weird thing about out here. You think desert, you don't think bright, vivid colors, and then something like that will just pop out at you. Let's see, where did we leave off last time, right? Of note, since we got a lot of rain, I've noticed some of my siding is warping where it got wet. That's kind of sad. I haven't painted anything yet. I'm hoping to get things a little more finished and then paint everything, but that might be bad planning. So anyway, I don't remember if I showed the inside of the new door last time. So I made, pretty dark in here. There we go. I think on the last video I had made the door and then screwed it shut or something. So I did manage to get door handles to work. When I built the door, it's too thick, so I had to basically cut off the inner skin to get the door handle to reach. That makes it a little bit weird. And then I did the top one first, just cut a big square, and then I realized that I could probably cut a circle on the lower one, and that worked out pretty nice. So it works. Considering how heavy the door is, it's, on the 3 hinges, not too bright. There we go. I had to redo the hinges a few times to get things to line up, so there's various holes and extra screw holes and everything. But it's doing good. It feels solid. Yeah, closes pretty well. Doesn't have any seals yet, so I'm planning on taking weather stripping and going around it. I did notice after the rain that this area in here, my phone doesn't keep up with exposure very well. There's an area of wet on the floor where the water would hit the door probably and run in and come through the threshold. So that part not so good. I guess since it's kind of dark in here, let me fix that. Still don't know what that snap is. Anyway, since we do have breakers in here now, and some of them are actually getting wires going to them, I started wiring a light circuit. And this was jumping right in the deep end because I've never really done that kind of thing before. I've done a lot of DC wiring, but not a lot of AC, so I had to stop and really think about it. I did help my dad pull wires in one of his houses, but honestly, I think I was in the way more than anything, and I was really confused whenever he was saying something because I was used to thinking DC. But what I did, for testing, the yellow cord I'm using here to power the circuit. And so that's when I turned on the breaker, I've got where the office is going to be, that's mostly wired now. So I've got wires from the extension cord going there, coming back, and then I wired a plug-in onto the end of the light wire. And so everything on this side is done, and then I ran out of wire. Yeah, 100 feet doesn't go very far when you're doing wiring. So just to prove that it works. Oops, dropped the light switch. Anyway, so last night, this was my Facebook post, I walked around just after sunset and when it was getting pretty dark in here, and just happily ran around the house turning on and off lights and stuff like that just to see. It's kind of like, it's my first house, go with me on that, right? Putting in just cheap light sockets for now. I figure I got the rest of my life to come back and do fancy again, but those are all LEDs, and then this one incandescent that I had left over. I was so glad I found these. I had bought a bunch of these bulbs when I lived in Austin, so over 2 years ago. And when I moved out of the apartment, because LEDs were kind of new then, they're probably a lot cheaper now, I looked at them all and I'm like, well, I am not leaving these in the apartment. I'm taking them with me, right? And then I got here and I didn't need light bulbs because everything I was doing was DC lighting, so I'd all use different bulbs. And that was my plan, wiring, for in here, I was like, well, I'm just going to do DC wiring so it runs right off the battery pack, right? And I've been noticing, especially now that I moved, the battery box is way over there. So that's over about 25 feet from there by the time the wire gets to the corner. And then another 30 feet. So I'm like 50 feet from the wire, right? I'm getting a lot of line drop. And on a DC circuit, your voltage drops the further you are from the battery. It's not a big deal usually, but when you start running 50 feet, it's noticeable. So you're just wasting power. It's kind of like friction in the wire. AC tends to work better. You can run a few hundred feet of extension cord and not really notice it because it's higher voltage. Don't worry about the theory too much on that. But anyway, it does make a difference. So I've been realizing that I had probably more efficient lighting. Turn that back off for now. I'd have more efficient lighting circuits if I ran them on AC instead of DC. So a lot of the bus I just ran right to the batteries, and all my phone chargers and laptops and everything, most of that runs off of DC, and over here I'm going a lot more AC. So this is like the geek dream of pulling your own wires, because okay, this is why I ran out of everything. The office will be in this corner, so there's double, 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 all for the office, right? But you think about, I mean, anybody who's ever actually seen my apartments, I would have power strip plugged into power strip plugged into power strip, just trying to get all the computers powered up, you know. So I figured when I'm wiring, let me just go crazy on this. Some of these are even 20 amp plug-ins, so I can run either heavier loads or make up. I'm thinking on my desk I might actually make my own power strip, so I can have a multiple thing coming off of that and put the plugins up where I think I can use them. But that was part of the reasoning, is I didn't look at where plugins are supposed to be. I said I'm going to put them where I want them to be, so a lot of my plugins end up being up high. And basically from here back, they're all going to be above the 48-inch line. So you can see that red line there. Traditionally, you would put them below that line so that when you're doing drywall, you wouldn't have any holes above the first sheet. So you'd put your drywall down. All your plugins would be on the bottom, and then the top, you don't have to do any cutouts. You just do it straight across. I don't think I'm going to do drywall. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun. I've really never wanted to do drywall. Anyway, so for the foreseeable future, I'm going to leave the walls open so that I can get in and add to the wiring or do some plumbing and so on. It is more comfortable in here by far already than it is in the bus without insulation even. And I'm thinking I've survived 2 winters in the bus already. It doesn't get that cold. So if I don't do insulation right away, it's not that big of a deal, kind of a thing. And I haven't really decided what I want to do for wall covering, but it might be some kind of a cheap paneling or something. So I'm not in any kind of hurry to do that part of it. Even if I had the money, I don't want to do it right away. I want to have time to kind of work through that. So there's going to be a bunch more plugins. This will be the kitchen. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to go buy a lot more. I really thought about it. And I'm like, I need a lot more than I thought I did, you know. So it's going to be a plug-in every other stud in here, and then plug in on the end walls. This is going to be storage, and this is one of the things that was holding me up a little bit. Okay, all of this and this is wood for shelves, and also this and some of that. And oh yeah, this was great. That's all offcuts from other parts of the build, and they're perfect sizes for shelves. So yeah. This room though, this is an 8-foot by 12-foot storage room. That's going to be just shelf, shelf, shelf all the way up. And all of my stuff that's been in totes for the last 2 years, I can finally get it out to where I can get to it. So I had bought, 50 studs and 10 sheets of OSB just for building shelves, and that sat in the back of the truck for over a week. I just unloaded it yesterday because it started getting into rainy season. I'm like, okay, I don't want that sitting outside. So, and I also didn't want it in here in the way. So that was the tough part is, well, what do? You know, it's like, well, I guess it comes in here. So I can't put the shelves in until I get the wiring done, because it'll be in the way. And this has been the hardest thing, is trying not to paint myself into a corner. And so I got all excited. I started doing wiring, and then I ran out of plugins because I put them all in the front. And I'm like, So, all right. going to town today, buying a whole bunch more plugins. I'm going to have more plugins in here than most, 4,000 square foot houses probably. But it also, this is the workshop. So there's going to be plugins. I think by spec, you're supposed to go every 6 feet. I'm going to be every 4 feet or less. And I'm putting everywhere there's an X, there's a double plugin, double plugin, double plugin, double plugin. Because this is where all the tools are going to be. All right. Also, this was an idea that I came up with. I think it'll be pretty slick. These lights are awesome, right? I mean, just an LED light bulb that pulls, I think, 10 watts, and it's as bright as a 60. Okay, and I have 4 already in, and I'm going to add more. I like lots of light when I'm working, but because I'm running off of batteries and solar, I don't want to have them all on at the same time. So in addition to putting 2 switches in so I can turn off half of them if I don't need them, if I'm working on one side, I can turn the other side off, that kind of thing. I'm probably going to also put pull strings on some of these so I can just pull the string and turn them off. However, the other idea, in between the lights, I put a P on the ceiling. I'm going to put plug-ins on the ceiling that are also switched. And I can run work lights off of those. So, like the portable work lights or those reflector lights that you can buy that just clip on or something like that. And they're going to be switched so that when I'm done for the night, I just hit the switch and all the lights go off. And that way I can put a light exactly where I need it. So if I end up putting the drill press in the corner and it feels really dark, I'll just run a light right to that spot, and then I'll have the light where I need it. These are the old workbenches, but it kind of gives you an idea when they're pushed up against the wall. It's going to be workbench all the way across, all the way out. And then on this side, because it's a short wall, I measured it. I can do a 30-inch deep workbench that'll come out almost to the stud there and just go all the way across one end to the other. I'm going to put in 2 6-foot-long benches, and they'll basically fill up that whole space. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I also had some offcuts from cutting the subfloor that are the same size as these. These are 2 feet by 4 feet. And I want to make some of these workbenches on casters so that I can roll them around easier. So if I need it in here, I can put it in here. I've got room in storage between the shelves. I can just push one in there when I'm not using it. I was joking a while ago, I could roll one into the kitchen and make an island out of it. I am thinking about, for the office, if I take a workbench and roll it up next to the desk, I can put printers and scanners on it for when I need it. If I don't need it, I could roll it over and put it, like in this corner where it's kind of out of the way, because I don't need the printer and the scanner very often lately. So I could just unplug it, roll it out of the way, and then I got lots of room again. What else? This was an addition. Originally, this corner was going to be where I wanted to put like a closet. But then I remembered I don't really hang up very many clothes. So the bed is going to be here. The bed that I have in the bus I'm going to use for now, and then I'll build another bed frame later when I have a little more time to sit down with the design. What I want to make is like a captain's bed where you got all the storage underneath, and then in wintertime the canopy over the bed that's in the bus. I made a kind of a tent out of bubble wrap, which made a huge difference in the winter. So instead of running the heat all night, I just pull the flap closed. And it's like a canopy bed, only with the bubble wrap insulation. And that was so much more comfortable. You could pull the covers up and you'd be fine. So I may develop that a little more, make it look a little nicer, because it was just kind of a quick hack that just stayed, right? Anyway, so the bed will end somewhere around here. I'll have a room in the corner behind where the door is for kind of a easy chair and a lamp and a reading corner, just to get away from the computer, because I typically spend most of my time at home plunked down in front of the computer. So I thought it would be nice to have a different place to sit, and I might put a little TV there for watching movies or something. So then that'll be there, the bed will be here. That left about 4 or 5 feet on this end. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got that drawing desk that I've barely used. So that's going to go in this corner. So while I was wiring, I have a separate light just for that one. So when I'm sitting over here, I got a nice light, and I can draw and have a different corner for doing that, just dedicated to that. And I mentioned the idea of the rolling desks, rolling tabletops, workbenches, whatever. So I could possibly have that parked here for the laptop to sit on, for reference material or something like that, and then I could go back and work or whatever. Also, part of the drawing is scanning and printing. Part of it would be digital, part of it will be pen and ink or something like that. And so having a way to have the computer close to that, and so you don't have to keep running all the way over there, that might work out pretty good. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, a lot has been done, but not really quite finished, right? The wiring goes pretty fast, and then you run out of something. The lighting circuits, that kind of thing. This might be a question that'll come up, so I'll try to hit it now. The yellow wire, like this stuff, right? That's 12 gauge wire. That's over spec. Normally you would run 14 gauge, which is the white stuff. All right. Lighting, I'm doing 14 gauge. All of the lights are going to be on one circuit. Since I'm using LED lighting circuits were originally figured for 60 watts or 100 watts per bulb, right? Well, these are like 8 or 10 each. So I'm just going to have one circuit for all of the lights. So that was one of the things I had to figure out, is how do you run a long string of lights and still put a switch for each room. So I had to mess with that a little bit and got it to work. That was actually why I hooked up the light to the plug-in at first, because I wasn't 100% sure I got it right. So I figured I'd plug it into that, and hopefully it would kick the breaker before something bad happened, and it worked. I got it right. So it was just kind of like stop and look at it and draw the diagram out a couple times until I figured it out. The yellow wire, though, that's 12 gauge wire. That's rated for much higher load. All of my breakers are 20 amp breakers instead of 15s. So I overwired considerably, really. It's kind of a thing where, is that necessary? Probably not. Also, when I think about it, I can't generate 20 amps of power right now, right? So I don't have enough power to kick a breaker before the inverter kicks off or whatever. So it's not really an issue, I guess, is the point. So, but I thought about it. I'm like, well, if I overwire, then later on, if I ever connect, to the grid, which is not something I'm planning on, or when I get around to building windmills, I'll have a lot more power available. The other thought on electrical, same kind of idea. I'm so used to using what I've got in the bus. So I tend to, I'll run the coffee maker first, and then I'll do something else. I don't run the coffee maker and the microwave and the toaster and the blender all at the same time. I just don't do it because I'm used to not having that much power. Also, I can't possibly run everything at once because I don't have enough power. But the only thing I could think of is I might run the coffee maker, come back here and do something in the shop, right? But I don't typically, if I'm in the shop, I'm not going to be running the drill press and the table saw at the same time. That's, so how many things can I run at the same time by myself? Okay, so I don't think I'm ever going to trip a breaker from overload, is the kind of the point. So I've given myself a huge amount of overhead as far as, I've got more capacity in the wiring than I'll ever use, which is a good place to be. You never have to think about, oh, is this going to be a problem? No. And the office is on a completely separate circuit from everything else, which is a nice idea because I've had times where in the past, living in apartments where they were underwired, the coffee maker would knock out the whole office, and then whatever work you were doing got lost because you hadn't saved it. So, always save, but it's annoying when your computer crashes because the coffee maker took too much power. So this way it'll be separate. Yeah. So hopefully by the next update, these piles will be turned into shelves magically. The wiring will be finished. I've got one more circuit. So I got a circuit for the kitchen. The kitchen will pick up storage because it's not likely that I'll be plugging much in there. And then I'll do one circuit for one side of the shop, one circuit for the other side of the shop. I have an electric water heater that'll go there. That'll have its own circuit. It's only a 110. It's not a 220. And then I'll do one more circuit that'll go all the way down this wall. And I'm hoping I can do all of that with what I got left of this 250 feet of yellow wire. I'm going to buy one more roll of 100 feet of the 14 gauge for doing a little bit more lighting. I'm going to have more lights in the shop than I have in the rest of the house. And the way I'm doing that, I'll have lots of lights, but I won't be turning them all on, is kind of the idea. So if I'm working in one corner, I'll just turn on that light. And very likely, from what I saw last night when I was out here, I will probably unscrew half the lights, right? Because you just don't need them. And every light uses power. And if I'm running off of solar, by the end of the night, I'm running out of power anyway. And that's the one thing I got to remind myself of. Even though it's a new house, I'm running off of all of the same systems that I have out here. So all of that's running the bus is now going to get split towards the house. Now, I'm not going to be running the bus as much, but I'm still using the same amount of power. So even though it's a new house, it's the same system. That's kind of the point for now. And then I'll upgrade out here again. It's a constant cycle, but every time it gets a little bit better. And for anybody wondering, yeah, that's... let me shut the door as I come out of here. That is the only windows, just those two. And when I bought the door, I very much considered getting the door with the window in it. It'd be a little more light. Reasonably, in the next 5 years, I'll probably still be working, so I'll be home in the evening. You don't get much. By the time I would get home from most jobs, it'll be dark anyway. Not going to be a big deal. I will eventually get screen doors, so when I'm in here, if that back door is open, I get an enormous amount of light coming in. And if I have the front windows and the front door open with the screen door, it'll be pretty good. And those lights in the dark, they light it up pretty nice in here, so it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Anyway, that's basically it. Hopefully that was fun for you. It was fun for me. I don't know if I'm in focus or not. Probably not. I'll get my hand out of the way. I can't see this, so I'll just hope it's a good shot. If you like the video, go ahead and give me a big cheesy thumbs up. That'll be my new thing. Yay. Like and share and comment if you have any questions or if you see something you're not sure about. I would recommend anybody looking at this, don't build your house this way. I'm trying to do good work, but it's not necessarily to code. So there you go. Doesn't really work, doesn't apply so much to me out here because there isn't a lot of code that I can find of how to wire a house for off-grid. Since I'm not going to connect to the grid, I'm not really worried about that. Kind of the idea. But I'm still trying to do good work. Otherwise, yeah, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and click the notify so that you see when the next update happens. If you get really bored, go back and watch this from the beginning. The other last thing, I am shooting an enormous amount of video of the build process. I just haven't had time because I'm building the house to be editing the video. So when I get done actually building, then in the evenings or whatever, I'll go back and start editing all of the footage that I have shot. So you'll get to see, the whole process. So in the meantime, these are kind of quick and easy, and I can just shoot it and upload it, and then at least people know what's going on. So yeah, there you go. Last shot out the window. Oops, right. Little bit of breeze, a little bit of clouds. Clouds are nice because it's cool, but then you don't get much solar. Yeah, life. Bye for now.